Like, they would have to dole out creatine to us. Like there was a coach that came out and like gave you a scoop.
Because they didn't want you to overdose, right?
Can't overdose on creatine. You don't want to do that.
It's a God molecule, man. It's so good for you, right? Like it's good for your brain. It's good for muscle. I mean, the early dosings were tough because, I mean, the creatine, I'm not sure how good it was. And you get to run sometimes
of
from
course,
the bad cup.
Of course.
You know?
And then the marketing of it was like, you need to front load it. Like,
yeah. Right? Oh, boy. But, yeah, I mean, it's so good for you. I mean, my son, I put it in his fucking sippy cup.
Yeah.
Right?
Creatine, get him jacked already.
Yeah. So,
I mean, why do you think most people still screw up whether or not that's a good supplement?
Well, you know, it's just, everyone just kind of brand supplement. Oh, maybe it's not good, or is it natural? No, it's natural. It's in red meat, right? Like, so, and you know, they're talking about concussions prevention in rats anyway, right? But I mean, you take it, it helps with concussions, the whole 9 yards, like prevention. Yeah. You know, and it's just so good. I mean, once my son started playing contact, I think about 12, I legitimately put him on creatine. Yeah. You know, it's just, hey, I'm going to try to do whatever I can to prevent concussion.
So basically, if you're an adult and training,
you
should be taking some.
Yeah. Doesn't hurt.
It's one of those that still blows me away, man. Like, I'll still get questions about whether or not that's like, what do you think about creatine? Like, what do you mean? What do I think about it? It's not an opinion. Right. It works. It's a good one.
I mean, it just pulls water in the muscle like sodium does. You know, it's a combination. I do sodium loading and creatine. Just throw them in together. Let's roll.
Yeah. So I mean, with your athletes and everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude,
especially if they need to get strong.
It's so cheap too.
Right.
Like, it's so accessible.
I know.
It's probably the most accessible supplement there is.
Right.
And I guess for everyone listening who's not familiar with you, you're now head strength and conditioning coach and have been for a long time at Minnesota.
Yeah, I started with 12 teams, overseeing them for about over a decade, and now I'm just down to 2 men's and women's hockey because the field's evolved after 20 years. Like, you're so intense, so everything. And then I also work with the U.S. Women's National Olympic team for women's ice hockey. Whoa. So I just got back from the World Championships.
How was that?
That was good. We took silver, though. You know, you're disappointed in that, but yeah, and then go through the Olympics. Hopefully they happen. I mean, going to China, I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you. Like,
it's weird times right now.
I know, brother.
I'm going to Africa tomorrow, and that seems a lot less sketchy than going to China.
Yes, I would take Africa over China right now.
Yeah, it's a weird climate we're in.
Ooh,
yeah,
dynamics.
Yeah, it's very strange. I had Nick Kumalazos on the podcast earlier today. We called in and did it, and talking a lot about background and how that and where things have made moves to, and things are very, very strange in our climate.
And the things you don't have control over.
Right.
That's what's nerve-wracking.
Now, how has the last 2 years been with you guys, like as far as coaching and at the NCAA level?
Well, you know, we got COVID tested every day.
Every day
that we were in, 6 days a week. It was brutal. Even if you had 2 off days, one of those days you had to get tested so you could keep going.
Did you ever come down with it?
Yeah, had it. Yeah, and then I didn't even know I had it.
Okay.
I was sleeping along. I felt like I was sleeping a little. I was getting the best rest of my life. 5 days. Literally wake up that morning, and I was doing a 6-mile nature hike. A hike, right?
Yeah.
Felt great. Didn't even drink coffee that morning. They called me, you got COVID.
Shit.
Like, what? No, it couldn't be. Went in next day, or went in to get a test to confirm. That night, I actually lost my smell for about 2 hours, or my taste, because I was eating dinner. I was like, what? And I grabbed some really good scotch, Lagavulin, right? It's really smoky. Yep, couldn't taste it.
Weird.
And then it came back the next morning. I could taste the Lagavulin in my coffee, so I knew it was back. Yeah.
Wow, so just real quick.
Yeah, real quick in and out.
It's
Never had the
crazy that
symptoms. I know, it's
affects
crazy.
people so differently.
Well, I have the O blood type, so
okay.
I don't know. Maybe that was it, but whatever. Who knows?
Who knows, man?
Yeah.
Just, you know, as far as athletes and any of that, man, the Olympics getting pushed back, and like, what a weird thing this has done, just to society as a whole.
Yeah.
And yet, we still never addressed it as a health issue at all.
Yeah, the metabolic problems that it attacked, right? Like people with comorbidities.
I mean, and that's where we've seen a big part. It bums me out that we've never taken a proactive stance on like what maybe you could do to stack the cards in your favor. You clearly can't prevent it, but fuck.
Vitamins, fitness, health.
Be outside.
Be outside.
Yeah, the vitamin D.
Right? Walk through the woods where you get exposed to all these spores that enhance your immune system. No, seriously, it's that simple.
You're right. Yeah, right. Man, we were in Iceland. I watched Fantastic Fungi. It was like this documentary about mushrooms, and it covers everything. Paul Stamets runs it and everything. It's really, really great if you get a chance.
Yeah.
Something else that's occurred in the NCAA I'm curious about now is so athletes can make money off of their likeness.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, you got all these, it's opportunities for somebody to make money who, how many kids have done great in college and maybe not made it in the pros and lost that opportunity to support their families, right? Like, I think free enterprise, in my opinion, is always good. And yes, it does open the door for cheating, I believe, because it's going to happen. Because there'll be certain schools who say, yeah, we'll make sure you get a deal.
I've never thought of it from that perspective,
right.
that a school would pay another school's athlete to take a dive. Essentially.
Well, no. I'm saying, like, let's say if you're willing to come to this football university, we have car dealers that'll let you make a few $1,000 signing autographs. Guaranteed.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And like a lesser school may not have that.
Sure.
So are you going to go to the big school with the big media market?
Yeah, but that's always been the case, right?
Theoretically. No, but
no,
it's probably yes.
I mean, it's been crooked for a long time. This should take away some of the crookedness of it because it'll be done out in the open.
Yes.
Even whenever I was at LSU, like, I don't remember any big crazy stuff, like rumors even around the teams of like, oh, that guy got the car hooked up.
Right. And it's not every school, right?
No, very clearly.
Yeah.
And it's not every athlete. It ain't like if you showed up to play football that you're getting hooked up the same way the star quarterback guy that got recruited is.
Yeah. No.
You're deep snapping. You're fucking sit in the back.
Yeah, easy. Just be quiet over there, buddy. Right? You know your role. Right? You got to know your role.
Right.
Yeah. It's who knows? We'll see. Hopefully they regulate it somehow. But I mean, I know they got to do all the paperwork when they do that stuff. Right. So everyone's going to know theoretically.
Whew. That's so much to keep up with.
Yeah.
It'd be really strange as a college athlete to have been thinking about marketing myself like during that, like, am I trying to get cell phone video at practice now of doing things so that I can promote?
I know. Well, I think the one
or are you seeing that
I haven't at
like
my
with
level.
athletes.
Haven't at my level. I don't know. I just train the kids.
Yeah, I just didn't know how much social media gets involved, even like in the day-to-day. Like, are they out with cameras out doing shit?
I haven't seen them. However, though, and there's a lot of rules where you can't use a university's jersey during that time frame.
Okay.
I know what one of the female gymnasts, the one I think she became a millionaire overnight with that rule.
Well, good for her. Dude.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
If you've got that talent, and like, what a weird window gymnastics is
Shelf
to make
lives.
a career.
Short.
By the time you're in college,
it might be
you've
over.
missed the window.
Yes.
No one going to the Olympics is college-aged in gymnastics. This is just before going out to pasture. Luckily, they still let you get at school paid for.
I know, right?
Fuck, it's crazy.
Yeah, think about it. So, yeah, I think the opportunity, and all I want for my kids when they grow up is I want to have them opportunity. And that's what I think this will do, is give kids an opportunity to make some money, and hopefully, because who knows what the life brings you, and you miss that opportunity to make money.
Oh, and that's a big one.
Right?
Especially right now with all of it. I mean, just opportunities across the board because companies can reach more targeted audiences.
Yes.
Instead of you only have to sponsor The Rock.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, I know. It's I think free enterprise is always a good thing.
I've always been a big fan.
Yeah.
I'm always a big fan, man. I don't like told what I have to buy or not buy. I like supporting people that do rad shit.
Yeah.
And so we've got to know each other through years through Sornex, and I know they help develop a rack, basically, right, to help your programming, the triphasic stuff.
Well, yeah, there's some attachments on it, the accelerated band jumps. Yeah, they labeled it triphasic, the bar attachments, triphasic, attachments, and I didn't even know them yet. So they just them. I was like, well, I don't care. If they're promoting triphasic, what do I care?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
and then I flew down and met with them and chatted with them about some things. And yeah, we got them. I mean, they're obviously a brotherhood, right?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
It's great.
I didn't realize it until Summer Strong this year that, like, I saw someone walking around in a shirt and it was like Summer Strong 4. And I was like, oh, that was a great shirt. And I'm like, wait, that's a lot of years now that I've been sneaking around this thing. And yeah, it is such a great group.
Yeah.
That, to me, Bert and them really do embody they're trying to build equipment for athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always felt that way. Like they're innovating for the right reasons, not just new and shiny.
No question. Yeah, they are. And then some of the things that I've done, it's always the variability in their equipment and all the possibilities that you can do with it, right? But that foundational rack is...
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I got 6 of the best, everything I could get.
Right, and they're the ones who started doing them.
Yeah, it was good. It's... And then just the durability. Some of the things that I do violently, like a glued ham, where we do it extremely violent. You have a 280-pound athlete just driving their feet, and other people's have broke. You know what I mean? And
breaking equipment gets really scary.
Yeah. Well, that's what you should try to do.
What all have you had guys slaughter in there? Just break equipment.
Well, bars,
stuff that shouldn't break. You snapped a barbell.
Yeah. Well, and we did it was a barbell. It was actually a Texas Power Bar, but they'd machined it so that there were different lines in it for different grips, and that's where it snapped at. But we were doing So
were you doing normal things with it?
Oh no. Well, they were shrugging 700-800 pounds.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Just
big rack. Pull
Yeah, and probably
type stuff?
Well, rack pulls. Yeah, I've bent a few like that, but 1,000 pounds. But, accidents sometimes with a lot of weight drop. Whatever, it happens.
Barbell's bend.
Yeah, barbell's bend. It's okay.
Even
Just
really
good.
nice ones.
Yeah, even good ones. Elecos too.
Don't joke about that.
Yeah, right. But
no joke.
And ultimately the equipment. It's just the versatility, and then you can just add. I make up my own stuff sometimes and send it to them, and I get shipped in the mail. I don't even get a response. Hey, I could use this, and then something's built and sent to me.
Dude, they've always taken great care of me, and so
Right.
I love those guys. Bert,
Yeah.
I love you, man.
Yeah.
So give your rundown on triphasic for people listening, as my crowd's a bit more powerlifting, string sports didn't come from, let's say, a more professional strength conditioning side.
Sure. Triphasic was basically founded on a bunch of trials and error, right? Like what didn't work, what worked. And basically triphasic is a series of, I use block training. We'll get into that maybe a little bit, just why I think is more effective at certain times. But it's triphasic is I broke the human movement down into 3 parts. It has an eccentric, a brief isometric, and a concentric. So when you throw a football, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, they pull their arm back, and that eccentrically loads. And then there's a brief isometric movement in each part. It'll be in the muscle, but like one part of the muscle may be stretching and another part might not be stretching, but there's an isometric. And then the concentric is the forward part. And what happens is once I realized that, and then I just started training an eccentric focus for a while, and then an isometric focus for 2 weeks, and then a concentric for 2 weeks. So everything's laid out in 2 weeks. The results I got was, and I use track and field to measure everything, and swimming, because those are measurable sports, as you know.
Right. Yeah, super consistent, easy variable. Football's tough.
Well, you can measure things if you measure the speed, but ultimately the performance at the end of the day, there's too many variables. Right. It's like hockey's probably the most dynamic sport in the world, and that's what I work with now, right? But
ice soccer with sticks, it's crazy.
Right. Well, I've had and I test everything, man. I've run I have 1 million tests on humans, right? If you look at all the things I've ever tested.
Oh, I know. I've got to see the mad scientists actually do stuff. It's a lot of fun.
And the thing is like hockey players, I've had some guys train with me for 12 years. They got, by year 10, they're slower than they've ever been, even when they were 19 years old, right? But they're better hockey players because the dynamics of sport, they know the sport.
Right.
They're out there playing chess, and other people's probably playing checkers.
So you don't have to work as hard to get the same amount done.
They still work hard.
No, but you know what I mean.
They're slower. You're
not running around panicked.
Right. It's not like in shot putting or sprinting where if you start to fall off, bro,
you see it pretty quick.
You see it really quick.
It is as fast and violent and one thing getting done.
Right. So my point is that I built triphasic off track and field, flying 10s, in performance times, and swimming. And I've been fortunate to train some athletes, especially at the beginning of triphasic, where they ran the world's fastest time that year and up to date in the 400. 2 different athletes in Minnesota were 2 weeks apart when we peaked them.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, and everyone's like, what are you guys doing up there with these college kids? You know, and then Olympic champions and swimmers where, hey, and I was fortunate to have coaches that, look, everything, you know, it might be one of the, and the beauty about triphasic is that it's not a program. You can take any program and just focus on the eccentric movement for 2 weeks, the ISO for 2 weeks, and the consonant streak. So that's why it's not a program. It's a concept you throw into any program.
Right.
So that's why it's one of the most widely used things in sports, right? Like just, and you only do it once or twice a year. That's all you really need it.
Incredible.
Yeah, so it's simple. But when I broke those movements down and I started getting these results, I was like, am I crazy? And then you know, and nowadays people write books about a concept they come up with and then
Never test it.
Where I was using it for about 10 years before I even named it. I didn't even name it triphasic until after about 10 years of coaching it.
It was just the next block.
Yeah, just the next training section.
Yeah.
So, and look, I've had people from track and field swimming, powerlifting email me, hey, we set a world record with this. You know what I mean? And with, like, let's say, for example, strength athletes. If you're a strength athlete, whether a shot putter, powerlifter, you need to do it like, you need to start that 12 weeks out. And then you need to do your normal peaking for 6 weeks prior. Because what happens is if you start triphasic 12 weeks out, you'll get new strength qualities. But you won't get the skill developed
to
apply them until it takes you about 6 weeks to get that. All the new qualities that you have from triphasic will actually really pan out.
Right. It's like adding a bunch of horsepower, but you can't apply any traction yet.
Yes.
And so until you redevelop, because it's one of those weird things with throwing that there's strength, technique, and speed. And if you add speed and strength, the technique has to catch up again.
Yes, because it's a whole different skill.
Everything's different. If I'm moving faster, the leverage has changed. The angle I'm at has got to be different to counteract.
Right. So here's the thing. People have to understand that triphasic works for sports really well, but it's not sport specific.
Right.
It gives you the
it works for athletes.
It works for athletes. But once you do triphasic, then the sport specificity comes in by playing the sport or the skill that you're implementing. Because everything's a skill. You have to realize. Even strength's a skill, speed's a skill, but they're completely different.
Very.
Right? And this is what people don't understand. Like when I recommend like youth training, I say train speed as much as you can because that's what we're naturally wired to do. And then I trained my son, and I used this in COVID. I trained him for years with speed stuff. But the second I started implementing heavy strength, things got fucked up a little bit. When I say fucked up, just for a little bit, like his running gait, just things like that. But when I got out of it, it would get back. We're wired to run fast for survival. We're not wired
not the older we get.
No, right? Well, true. But like we're not like let's watch a powerlifter, an elite level powerlifter run just 2 100-yard dashes about great. A minute and a half apart, 2 minutes.
Not great.
It's terrible. It looks like he's about to die.
Yeah, especially any of the heavyweights.
Right? Yeah, or even Olympic lifter. I don't care what you do.
They're just not built to do it anymore.
Well, because we've like made them shift to a different type of
it makes sense, right? Because if you're not continuing to run, the ability is going to go away, and something else will take the muscle memory over.
Right. So being the way we're wired for survival, I believe it's you protect your brain, which like if somebody throws something at you, you close your eyes and move your head. Right. Eyes are part of the brain; they're just outside the skull. Protect your spine, and then you're wired to run. So there's a hierarchy of survival. Protect your head, spine, and run. And then running, to me, so what in COVID, I've added so much more running complex in my lifting, right? So what we'll do is we'll do a reverse hyper, and then we'll do a straight leg Dion prime time or straight leg power skip.
Oh.
So what I've done, and I call this, if my YouTube page, I call it functional transfer complex, right? So what you do is by using a reverse hyper, and then you follow your reverse hyper set with a primetime run, brother, it actually helps drive that glute pattern home.
Well, it makes sense with the straight legs and pulling them
down.
And
you're pulling them down with your glute muscle. So what I found is I always knew that reverse hyper and glute ham helped me take somebody out of a quad dominant type of pattern.
Interesting.
Okay. When I added the prime times after reverse hyper and glute ham, it happens in a couple weeks, not 6 to 10.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's just a simple run, straight leg run.
Straight leg run. driving your butt, or your butt's driving you forward, and you're pushing the ground behind you. And it's crazy when you see, like, if you came to my gym, I don't have any quad dominant runners, but you would see, okay, this kid's a quad dominant runner, and then you'd see somebody that ran correctly, and you'd see that pattern where you're like, oh, okay.
I'm just a quad dominant.
Yeah, you are, obviously. I know that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so add the reverse hyper and get off, and then just in your strip here.
Yeah.
Just do those prime times.
Okay.
And then even do them where you take a few regular running steps and do them flying.
Okay.
Or do them from the start. Yeah, it's a game changer. And now, look, I have to worry about that because I have a quad dominant sport, hockey skating.
Okay.
Transfers you into a quad dominant, like, hip extension pattern where you want that glute dominant hip extension pattern.
Not from the quad.
For the highest performance. And I'm talking, I have some of my fastest skaters that were quad dominant. That's okay.
We can change it.
We can get them just a little bit better. And it's crazy. People say, well, is that bad? I'm like, well, yeah, it's bad because you're going to get knee pain eventually. But they're so fast. I'm like, yeah, but like, look, that's just a compensation pattern because we are so wired to compensate so well. And the best athletes compensate
quickly.
The best and the fastest and still perform.
Which is always amazing to see, right? Like those guys that can just pick it up and figure it out, and they can't explain it to you.
No, they have no idea.
No, it's Bonnie and I were talking about it, like difference in athletics, and like throwing made sense for me. While I wasn't throwing incredibly far, it's one of those things that immediately when I took into the Highland Games, like all of the movements immediately, I was like, I get it.
Yep.
And then it took me a pretty short time to get good at it.
Yeah.
And you see other people that can learn it and do well at it, but it always looks robotic.
Mm-hmm.
And they can link it together. They're good enough athletes to link it together. But it's different when you see people that speak the language of movement.
Yes.
And, man, those freaks.
Hey, people may want to check this out, your listeners. The best drill I've ever created, bar none. I've created a ton of stuff. I call it the GOAT drill. Greatest of all time, right? And what it is a brain drill. Because here's the deal. If your brain is optimal, then you learn skill faster. So where I came up with it, it was originally came from a version of infinity walks, which is basically somebody, let's say, looks at an object and they have a figure eight perpendicular to the TV or whatever they're looking at, and they walk in a figure eight pattern. So they never lose the vision of what they're looking at. Let's say it's a TV or just an object. And when they're walking in that figure eight, they're always looking at it, so they're switching from the left to the right side of the brain, and it kind of balances the brain out. This was
are they facing the TV with their body, or are they?
No, they're walking straight ahead and turning their head.
Okay.
Yes. And if you look up Infinity Walks, it's on the internet. The original lady, I forget her brief name. She's out of Buffalo, New York. She created this, and there's clinics on kids with behavioral problems that makes them. There's clinics where they have kids go with behavioral problems, so it balances out their brain doing this drill. So what I did was I actually put it on steroids per se, and I have my athletes now. This is on my YouTube page again. It's all free. The Go Performance Drill, GOAT. If you look it up, you'll see people on there. I have a hula hoop laid down, big one. The athletes now here. I'll just be brief. They're running through that while they're looking at an object. They're having the ball in their hand. They move it around their waist. They're running at high speeds.
So like just swapping hands.
With a tennis ball, just as fast as they can while they're running. They're doing math, so I'm yelling out numbers.
Math at them. Jesus.
Yep, I'm yelling out numbers, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, they can't get them all. I don't care. And they're subtracting 2 or 3 or whatever number. I say, you're subtracting 2, ready, set, go. And I'll say 7, 9, 10, 11. They're trying just to nail numbers while they're running as fast as they can, while they're watching an object. Okay? And now look, and I throw a bunch of other things in there too, where I put somebody in the circle, and as they're going around, somebody's trying to block their vision, so it's frustrating. So what happens is it causes frustration, which causes a neurochemical or a neurotransmitter dump of acetylcholine, epinephrine, and dopamine, which helps you learn skill. So what I do is I do that drill at the beginning of my lift or any session to turn their brain on. I've had kids that have had concussions in the past get sick because of doing this drill. But what it does, then I back them down, I have them go slower, and and I'm telling you, this was a summer where
Have you ever been able to use it to, like, you've probably had a brain injury that we didn't know about?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Because if there's something not wired in the brain. So look, everything's going on so fast in that drill. There's so much information going in the brain. If there's something not wired correctly, yeah.
It's going
to let you know. So, and when I say that, I probably did 50 athletes, and there was 4 that showed up. Had a little nauseousness when they did the drill, literally by the second rep. I do like 3 to 5 reps, and then boom, we go lift. And it's just rapid fire, these things. So, and you can tell, and my best athletes do it the best, and they separate themselves. But everybody gets better, because I think it kind of helps rewire everything. And so then they turn on those neurotransmitters show up in the brain because you did this drill that's really hard. You did math, right? You did it all. And then what happens is when you go lift, now that you've released these neurochemicals, lifting strength is a skill. So you get faster or stronger or faster, whatever you're training that day, better. It's a brain affecting drill that gets your brain ready to go to perform whatever skill, and you just do it as a warm-up quickly.
And you can't do one without the other. Like, it has to be body and brain at the same time.
If they aren't connected, you got problems. I mean, running's a series of reflexes, and I don't know them all, but when someone's running, it's a series of reflexes. The stumble reflex, okay, upper body, lower body. So when you're talking about athletes, you're talking about, hey, guy's using his legs, but he's not bringing his upper body when he's throwing like the way he should. There might be a disconnect. There's a reflex there. Okay, so and I know, like, so this drill makes my athletes look a lot more athletic, especially the ones that weren't. I've done it the whole summer. My pros, because I train a number of pros to college freshmen, so there's a broad span there, and I'm telling you, it is a game changer on how fast.
How long are you doing it for?
They just do 1 rep, or I'll have them go through that figure 8 2 reps, so it takes them probably 6-7 seconds.
That's it.
And then, so in the beginning of my workout, they do that once, then they go run a short sprint, and they come back to this goat drill when they're resting. So they do it when they're resting, but they're running fast. But I do 5-6 reps. I'm telling you, try it here. You can do it in here. Yeah. Take a look at it on my YouTube page, the Goat Performance Drill. And I did 2-part series. So then the other thing I added was, like, the target that you're looking at, you can put it on a swing, so it's swinging. Because I was looking at, like, in the video, I actually showed another YouTube video of a hawk where they got like a piece of prey, and they're moving the hawk around, and the head just stays still in the whole body. So, and I got it from Chris Corfus, obviously a good friend of mine. I wrote some books with him. We were talking how our dogs are running through the woods chasing animals,
and their heads stay
on
like
the
gimbal,
and the dog is jumping over branches, and he's never underneath branches and over. And I'm like, that's crazy how athletic that is.
Yeah. We're really low on the totem pole as far as species.
Yeah. Right? I mean, we're pretty diverse.
Yeah, even our freakiest freaks aren't a house cat.
Especially, they're not. Right? Like, a house cat can stand there, or a lion can jump like 10 feet in the air. Really, yeah, right? Like, you're just like, okay. But you see, my point with that whole drill is it's a brain drill that turns things on. And I'm thinking, older populations, if you can just keep doing that.
Even walking?
Walking will.
I mean, does it scale all the way?
All the way. The original was walking from the Infinity Drills. Now, I've had friends of mine had 2 athletic parents. Daughter was taller, kind of uncoordinated. Started doing the Infinity walks, and then with the tennis ball around their waist, watching TV as a 7-year-old, and then reading the subtitles because they didn't want to, they're like, oh, just being good parents. Watching her, she read why she did the walking. And in about 2 months, they were like, something clicked because she was so much more athletic. Even other people knew it. Because there was just like a disconnect between her right and left hemisphericity of her brain. Yeah, so I tell you what, it's a powerful tool.
So just you ended up seeing the Infinity Walk, and that clicked enough of logic for you.
Yes.
So you're like, we should try it.
Well, and then we could add it on steroids.
And you've just been allowed to experiment on kids.
Oh, yeah.
for decades.
As a friend of mine said, man, every workout's a biological experiment if you really treat it that way. Yeah. Yeah,
and I think that's one of the things I've always loved about you is that the passion is performance enhancing for athletes and finding these tools and everything you can, whereas you're more scientist than you are meathead.
Oh, well, yes. I would agree. I mean, I'm looking at numbers. Like, I don't necessarily I don't set a hard. People say, "Well, did you do this for the experiment?" I'm like, "No, I just tested these numbers, and this is." So I'm kind of a meathead scientist.
That works,
right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm not a hard scientist. No, right?
You're not tracking every variable. And
No, because these scientists, even the sports scientists, are like, yeah, blah blah blah. I'm like, but you've never coached anybody.
No, but at some point, good, better, or worse.
Right? Did we get better? Did I produce a world champ? Did I produce an Olympic champ? Did we get what we needed to do? Do we set a lifetime PR? Right? That's the goal.
That's it.
Yeah.
A lifetime best performance, man.
When you were supposed to do it.
Yeah, which is a whole other incredible thing mindset-wise.
Well, I mean, theoretically, if you have a whole team, let's say swimmers, and you can hit 40% lifetime PRs, you've done really well. And I think there was a time where we hit 60 to 70 in one of my swims. That's not just me. That's just me playing a part in how the coach
part of the
tapered.
coaching, sure.
Yes, but the coach, and the question then became, well, did they work them really hard and then taper them? Well, yes, they did, but theoretically, a lifetime PR, 60 to 70% of your team is earth-shattering.
Through the roof.
Earth-shattering.
You're doing something right.
We never repeated it, but it was good, though.
Well,
like,
I mean, you got to have
good.
an upper mark on the
yeah, right?
on the bones.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, like, again, like, sometimes I'll take a test where I have, like, 12 timing gates, right? So I can run a timing gate every 2.5 yards in a 40-meter dash to see what section of the 2.5 meters is
the fastest.
Or compare the 32 to the 35, take that time compared to the 0 to 2. And how does so when I say that, I've that's 140-yard dash, but I got all these variables within that. So when I say a million numbers, I mean, I got more than a million, but like,
yeah,
you see how you have to compare everything. So, and then the catch is, like, there's so many things out there, in my opinion, that people just don't test. I'm like, okay, if I say this, I tested it and it just didn't work.
You're saying just testing the bench, squat, deadlift, and cleans
or whatever you want to
aren't
test.
the best
No.
only variables for athletes?
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. Like, people...
But those aren't the combine, Cal. If we
know.
don't know the combine numbers, how can we ever predict someone's ability to play professional sports?
I know, and it's so crazy. Like, and people get, like, frustrated. Some of the things I've said out there, like bracing the core. Look, I tested it years ago. I was like, okay, if bracing the core is good, let's run a 20-yard dash and see what happens and brace your core. What happened? Everybody got 2 to 3 tenths slower.
Yeah, you're too tight to run.
You can't run. So is bracing the core when you run not good? But running's the most important thing in like our entire life.
It's very valuable, right?
Right?
Like, yeah. Well, but also max effort lifting doesn't help us in any survival situation.
No, because it makes you slower.
Right. If you're built to do one thing really well,
Right.
It's going to be one thing. Like, only if you got crushed by an object in a very specific way
Yeah.
could you use that strength to be valuable.
Right?
I mean, strength is important, but max strength for a survival mechanism is much less important than running.
Right. And like, that's my thing.
Like what you're saying is it makes sense that we'd be predominantly wired to do the better thing, which running would save us more often.
100% of the time. And it's just being faster. Running is just being fast. So you can even defend yourself with a faster stick or a faster knife, right? Whatever it is. I mean, when people say, well, people assume people are strong, but I'm like, well, they're talking about like world-class sprinters. Every sprinter I ever tested, like when you deep squat them, they got slower. Kids on my the deep squat.
Like an ass to grass.
Yeah. And you're like, so that's when I went to the 90 degrees, or just a sports back squat. When I say 90 degrees, but it was almost like a high above parallel
squat.
Yeah, and we do it in the power range where we do it with less load, like at 50% instead of, because 20 years ago I was peaking people with heavy loads at the end, like we did in powerlifting, right? So, we get to 90% before.
Well, it's the only linear way to fully work things through, right?
And then what happened was I said, well, we got to try this. Let's try to peak them between like 75 and 50. And guess what? We got better results.
Really? Just less injury, less wear and tear? Or?
Well, you're not doing 90% moving it slow. And all my sports was high speed. So then when I was peaking at 75 to 50, we got better results. Well, it took me another 8 years to ask the next question. Well, if I dropped it lower, what's the next question?
Can we drop
Go
it
lower?
Yeah, what's even lower?
Took me 8 years. I'm not very smart. But when I dropped it lower, I even got better results.
It always surprised me that anyone was trying to do something that they called speed work at over 75%.
Yeah.
The way I trained for the games was I have to move fast. Nothing I throw is heavy. Nothing I throw is fucking a heavy weight. At 56 pounds, it's still not heavy.
No.
If there's no movement, if you were like, hey, do this with 56 pounds, I'd be like, why bother?
Right?
And so it's application of force at that point. And if I
Yes.
can't get faster through the range of motion, then I can't apply any more force.
Well, I've done it with throwing. Like, throwing was my passion, right? As a coach, right? Because those guys, those were the meatheads. I lifted them twice a day, 6 days a week. I mean, those were my guys.
They're crazy, explosive meatheads.
We had kids, like, put 80 pounds on their bench. And you know how far they improved their shot put? 2 inches.
Yeah. It doesn't translate.
It doesn't translate. Now, if he had longer arms, it would have translated, and there's reasons for that. But ultimately, and it's in triphasic how I explained it, where I had 2 guys that literally benched 440, both 440, but they threw the shot put 10 feet apart.
Yeah.
One was world class, one was a good Big Ten shot putter.
Well, there's a weird correlation that people think that should make sense, that a bigger bench press equals throwing further. However, find me a 70-foot thrower that doesn't bench well over 500 pounds.
Yeah, but you need it to some level.
Yes. One does not, he didn't get one from doing the other. It came the other way around.
Right.
You know,
And he's always been wired to move it fast.
yeah, like Krauser.
Right. And then, so those 2 kids, when you compared them, same bench press, 440, the kid that threw it 10 feet farther, when you went to 220, he moved the bar way faster. So then it's like, do I need to train lighter? Of course I need to train lighter with them. I can't train max effort all the time.
See, when I got out of powerlifting and fully had shifted gears to really only focusing on the Highland Games, my ability to grind a heavy lift kind of went out the window.
As it should.
Like I don't need it.
No.
Like why would I ever have that much weight on the bar unless I'm testing?
Yep.
That's it.
Or if your limitation in moving it fast is strength, but I highly doubt that because of the way you were wired. You see what I'm saying? Now, you needed that strength to get to a certain point.
Of course.
That's
of
what
course.
people. And then I use, like, in the triphasic factor, the eccentric part of training damages the tissue, but it rebuilds it faster. Like the blood work that have done coinciding with doing an eccentric bench press focus or squatting causes your white blood cells to go through the roof because you're damaging tissue. But the immune system comes in, cleans it up, and then your body rebuilds it thicker and stronger.
Then from the concentric portion.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. But the point is to rebuild that tissue thicker, stronger. Now you have new tissue. It's been rebuilt. The isometric phase makes it super strong. And then the one big thing about the isometric phase is people don't realize is I think isometrics are the fastest way to get strong, especially in a certain range of motion, right? And I always do mine in the stretch position, so the weakest. But the one thing, it's more taxing metabolically, so it's harder. Isometrics are so hard. And then what it does is it trains the vascular system. So you know how people, I don't know if you've seen, but people, they'll do the grip things to lower the blood pressure, old people.
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, that's what's happening during the isometric phase of triphasic. And your vascular system now gets more pliable because of the blood pressure. I mean, if you're under a safety bar single leg split squat with 500 or some guy, I had a thrower to 800 pounds, single leg safety bar, holding it, right? So you're going, okay, but your blood pressure is probably about 500.
So he's essentially like taken out of a rack in a split squat.
Going down, holding it
and holding
for 10 seconds while you hold your breath, right? You're holding your breath for 10 seconds. You're getting your blood pressure up, the pliability of your vascular system. What happens after that 2 weeks of isometric is I've tracked it, is that a lot of my athletes' resting heart rate goes down 8 to 12 beats. Whoa. And people go, why? And I'm not doing any conditioning. They go, why? Because the pliability of the vascular system. Like everyone talks about the heart and the lungs, but I'm telling you the vascular system is one huge factor. And I'll cover it in triphasic too, right?
Yeah.
The next book. But look, every time your heart beats, it sends the blood to the muscles. If the arteries are tight, then guess what?
That makes
There's
sense.
less organic substance, blood, moving into the muscles.
And so tissue being tissue, that unless it's stretched and moved and opened up, it becomes less pliable and more fragile.
Right. And then I have some other devices where I'm able to check like red blood cell content, hemoglobin. But ultimately, the other major thing that triphasic isometric phase fixes is that I've had athletes come to me, even special operations guys come to me, say, hey, we got a problem. Can you take a look? Well, what happens is when the blood goes into the muscle, the body uses it really well. But on the backside, which when the return comes in the veins, goes back out of the muscle, it gets clogged up back there because the veins aren't as pliable as they should be. So they think they're out of shape when their heart and lungs are in really good shape. But guess what? The return isn't like it's supposed to be. So when you do the isometrics, it fixes that problem.
That's really
So
interesting.
they do 2 weeks of isometrics, no conditioning, and I tell them that's what's going to fix it.
And they're in better shape.
And they're in better shape. They're not. They're not.
We
just
fixed
took
the system.
limiter. There's a rate limiter in there that we fixed and identified.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Well, but then the pliability of the vascular system is important for recovery. So for you, let's say you're training to be extremely explosive and powerful. Well, if you've got a better vascular system, you can get more recovered in between each repetition, so you can get more reps of high quality work in. That's why triphasic's an off-season program, more or less. And then it builds you to be able to train more later and more sport specific.
Well, my goddamn nemesis used it while competing against me.
Yeah, who was that?
Danny McCammon.
Oh, yeah, Danny. I love Danny.
Yeah.
He was a triphasics guy.
I should have paid attention.
I mean, he did okay, wasn't he?
He's pretty good.
4-time?
5.
5-time.
Yeah,
I short Danny.
I snuck
there.
2.
Yeah, you only got 2, huh?
I just figured out days he wasn't great. That's really all it was. He's so hard to beat, man.
Yeah.
He's just such a big, consistent, and like mentally strong enough. Just a hard athlete to compete against.
Yeah, right. Well, he's got a little advantage too. His height's a little bit over you, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
allegedly, it helps.
Yeah. Well, he's got more time to produce more force.
Yep.
Well, you had to do it more violently, obviously being a little shorter.
That was all I had.
Yeah.
So
violence.
Yep, that's
Just
it.
find the dark
Wake
place
up,
and roll.
choose violence.
Yeah.
So, and so, like, on top of that, like, you chasing, like, nervous system issues and stuff like that to improve performance instead of just ringing the old bell that we have to put more weight on the bar all the time. I'm assuming you're also seeing less injury in athletes.
Yeah.
And then you also are really involved with RPR.
Yes.
I'll let you explain that. I've had JL on the show a while back, and it's always been a bit witchcrafty.
Yeah, and really what RPR is a series of reflexes that will make changes in the body that it's pretty crazy when you apply them yourself, that you can take various muscles and activate them for a period of time, whether it's long term. It just depends on the state that you're in. Like, I've had people break their foot, their glute shuts off. Well, I can turn it on, but it's going to shut back off. We know that, right? Healthy people, I've seen it last for weeks, right? But ultimately, they do it every day to themselves. You hit these various spots, and athletes turn their muscles on. Things are functioning correctly, so then you're less likely to cause injury, knee pains, things like that. You become more mobile. You take the restrictors off your body that the brain has put on because you have injuries in the past, or just the way you don't move.
Yeah,
during the day.
My right glute now basically doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yep.
Yeah, right?
It's just a fucking mud flap hanging back
Yeah,
there now.
so RPR, right? It's crazy. I was just at the Women's Ice Hockey World Championships, and there's various team that beat us was doing it. And yeah, you're like, oh, well, it's not always an edge in it, but other teams out there were doing it in the parking lot.
That's cool.
We were warming. Yeah. So it's kind of a pretty, and people, I get stories every day about people using it, just getting some great response and recovery, right? Like, the one big thing is it puts you in a better spot. It's like especially when you release the diaphragm and your breathing gets released. Because the one thing, I know a lot of people do breathing things, but with RPR, we hit and RPR will work with all those other breathing things,
It's not one or the other.
No.
It's both.
Right? And that's the thing with RPR. We release the diaphragm tissue around it. So then when you do the breathing, it actually opens it up more. Some of the things we do, like massage therapists have found that just doing RPR spots on a hamstring before, they get a better response because now they're digging. So it works with it. I tell people it works with anything. It's not that or RPR or nothing. No, it don't change.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that people doing it themselves, Maddie, you're like, have the athlete do the RPR and then have them come in and do what you want to do. Like it's that simple.
Right. And it's pretty quick. Like, I mean, it's something that I fall out of practice with.
Right. And me too. Right. Cause I'm doing an exercise. I'm like, oh, this feels like dog shit today, but I'll hit my spot. Oh, there it feels better. You know what I mean? And I mean, I should know it. I know it maybe better than anybody in the planet besides maybe Chris, but we're going okay. But yeah, so it's just, and all my athletes use it. They run through it in their warm up. It doesn't take any more time, right? We just do a warm up, and they do it as they're doing their warm up, and that's it.
Right, and it's really simple. There's a chest rubbed up the sternum, your collarbone.
Yeah, like 1 inch over your belly, like to hit your psoas. Your glutes are behind. The crazy one is like the glutes. You just rub the base of your skull in the back, and then right behind your jaw. And there's 2 spots. So the one in the skull, the reason we believe it's that for your glute, your butt muscle is right behind the skull, is because so glutes are an extension pattern for everybody. Your first extension pattern as a child is to root for food, and you're using that muscle in the back of your skull.
Oh man,
right?
I love epidemiology.
Yeah. Well, then think about the next extension pattern is to open your mouth to eat. So that's why we go right behind the jaw. Yes.
Fascinating to just turn the glutes on.
To turn, and we've checked it. Like I checked it. It's never not worked. So for people out there, there's a coaching course with RPR, but there's also an individual course. It's not the $300 coaching course, right? It's a quick $125 and we just released it about a month ago, and people are buying it to just, hey, my daughter plays soccer. I'm like, just take this 40-minute course, learn all the spots. And
oh man, that's great.
Yeah, right. But so the beauty of it is that with RPR, you're like, it's self-care. So then the coaches don't have to do it. They just make sure they warm up with it, and they're out. And that's the beauty. Like when I first started doing it, I would do it all manually. I mean, there was a time where I went to an organization, I was doing it manually, and my fingernail fell off later because I was
working on people.
Yeah, it was brutal.
And now, I say witchcraft with it. Like all of that makes sense to me, but we've also, I mean, you've seen it bring up old trauma and lots of unexpected, I guess, situations.
Yeah, so a lot of times that when you have trauma, it's a molecule in the body, and it appears to be stored in various tissues. And sometimes RPR has released that in people, so they feel that same emotion. Whoa. And it comes out of the tissue, because then when we go back there, it's not there anymore. So once you release it, but people are carrying that trauma. And there's been some crazy ones, like it's just simple ones where one of the worst ones I've ever dealt with was an Olympic athlete, and we were working on her, and she started getting upset, and then I stopped, sat there with her. About a half hour later, after crying, she had broken her hand before the Olympic tryouts. So her whole life was spent training for the Olympics, and you know how this would feel. And that broken hand might have kept her out.
Wow.
And the way she felt. So years later, that came back. She stored that in her body. Like, that was trauma. Now, another trauma that was really bad for a 50-year-old male was he was running his tricycle into his sister, and his dad hung it up and told him he couldn't have it for like 2 weeks. But when you're 4 years old,
hey man, look, it's easy to look at kids and emotion and the way they handle problems as a fucking idiot kids.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the reason kids cry over spilled milk, it's literally the worst thing that's ever happened to them in their existence. They don't have the measuring stick that we do of perspective, which is perhaps why I have such a problem with participation trophies, that you've never dealt with failure. Yes. You've never dealt with disappointment. And so whenever it starts to rear itself as an adult, you feel like, well, this isn't fair. This isn't the way I've been fucking expected to live my life. Please remove this as a thing I'll have to deal with. And so everything is fucking spilled milk. Everything's the worst thing you've ever dealt with.
It's that person's perception.
Yes.
Right? And it's real.
Right. In the same way, I don't want that guy embarrassed to be like, yo, that fucked me up, oddly enough.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. But they didn't even know what was causing this, like, ache in them, whatever it was. It might have been back. And then when it's released, they knew what it was, because they remember how it felt.
What an interesting.
Now it can be crazy, right? Crazy levels of stuff in regards to people's layers.
Really? So now is this kind of more like the body keeps a score? Like,
Yes, that's exactly. Yep.
How
That's,
it's
you can.
stored
That's a book.
within the fascia and trauma,
Yep,
right?
That's a book people can read. It's exactly what's going on.
While we're doing this, I know you. Where can people actually get the course?
Reflexiveperformance.com.
And you said that we have an affiliate code we can share.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes.
Okay, cool.
I think.
We'll just use the code UMSO.
Yeah,
and save yourself a little bit and try this out.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy, right? And
I mean, I've seen you do it at Sorenex, at Summer
Yeah.
Strong, and like, I mean, oddly enough, it does get treated like Cal's gonna put on this magic show.
Yeah,
of
well,
working on people.
I do have a skill set, though. I think even I just have seen and have learned for the last decade about this and how people respond. You know, because like, so when I say that, I mean to watch you move, and if your foot's doing something wrong, then I know a spot over on your right, the opposite hip, can fix that foot problem. So this whole thing's like the fascia, the way it runs through the body. There's books like Anatomy Trains. It tells you all this. Well, it's crazy how our body compensates instantly so fast. So you go back to the goat drill that we were talking about.
Right.
There's so much information running into the body. Think about how if you step on a stone and injure your foot, you can still take the next step, and your body's just rewired everything that
To
instantly.
avoid that pain again.
Well, not to avoid it, but just to keep running, to survive maybe.
Sure.
So, or maybe to avoid the pain. Oh, yeah, you're avoiding the pain of the next step so it doesn't hurt that bad. You're actually sometimes compensating, and you don't even know the pain's there yet. The brain knows there's pain there, but you don't consciously know it yet.
Right.
So, and then when you're doing that drill, or when you're running even straight ahead, like if you just take your eyes and move them like 5 degrees, the whole spine will contract at a different level, different contraction.
Yeah.
So here's the big thing about core training for me is like, how, if I'm running at high speeds, my foot strikes the ground, and if my hands are in different positions, my eyes are in different positions every time, and the spine contracts differently to stabilize, how is bridging in the weight room
More valuable.
more valuable than running?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Just single plane of motion, very braced, very stable. But at least we can put a ton of weight on it.
Yeah. But even running, let's say you're just running violently straight ahead. Your leg, let's say when it was big, weighed 55 pounds, 60.
Okay.
Slamming back at 5, 6, you're running forward at 8, 10
Right, I'm
meters per
pushing.
second. There's like 600 pounds of force rotating your spine at 100th of a second, trying to rotate your spine and break it in half from your leg slamming backwards, hitting the ground, causing violence, 700, 800 pounds of force. In 100th of a second, there's all that torque running through your spine to stabilize. But yet we train core in the weight room. We don't train anything in the weight room like that.
No, the focus on core training, I feel like has always been it's a bit of a kook way for a strength coach to like use a thing that he's like, I'm talking about core. Clearly, I'm a professional strength coach. and it's always been really funny to me because like years of playing football or doing any of this, no one ever fucking talked to me while playing football. Like, whenever you take your first step and make content, like brace.
No.
You don't do that.
No, you can't.
No.
When you hit something, your body knows how fast to brace and exactly how much, right? You're just going, guys, it's beyond me. Just move heavy things. Your core will get, you'll get the strength in your core.
Well, that's how I got asked whenever I was throwing. They were like, what accessory ab work are you doing? I'm like, none. I throw 4 days a week. It's just fine.
Well, I mean, how much force is coming? The hammer's trying to, 800 pounds maybe?
Yeah.
16-pound ball at that speed is 600 to 800 pounds of force pulling out. I think you're good.
Probably good.
Yeah. I mean, people say, well, yeah, I've heard him. A friend of mine, Dave Oslin, took third in the world strongman competition. And he'd come in, we'd train, and he'd do, people are like, oh, yeah, we guys never do core when we do our workouts. We're like, the man can do a sled. He does the
yoke.
The yoke for 1,000 pounds and walks with it. Like, what?
It'll be fine. We're not going to do any sit-ups.
Oh, I know. We're good. Like, because if his core was weak, you pull like a chair.
The other side of that, which, the side of lifting that I guess you probably deal with less would be your pure strength total athletes and then probably bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And like those are such interesting worlds, like the hypertrophy world. is a very fascinating one for me coming from athletics. Of like I've gotten now lucky enough to have both Flex Lewis and Jay Cutler on the podcast, and like talking to those guys of just the number of reps and sets and hypertrophy that builds this machine that becomes completely unfunctional.
Yeah.
Is incredible.
It's awesome, though.
Oh,
yeah.
It's fucking wild.
I love it.
Yeah, same. It's incredible that your body's like, keep adapting? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just keep adding more.
It's great, man. And like bodybuilding, like I'll use bodybuilding in the beginning. I'd say bodybuilding, but high repetitions to build fitness levels. That's not specific, right? So even on an off day, let's say a thrower comes in, has a big meet, and then on the first day he's feeling beat up, tired. Do bodybuilding, light bodybuilding, to recover.
That's all I've ever done. Hypertrophy work was always
right.
My recovery stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's great. Tons of blood flow.
That's exactly
Dump
it.
a ton of blood into that muscle and let it purge.
That's what recovery is. People don't understand. All these recovery methods, they increase blood flow.
Yeah, whether it's hot or cold tub. Yeah, it's
go
the
back
same
and
shit.
forth. Acupuncture, guess what? Causes vasodilation, gets blood flow in there. RPR,
Massage.
calms you down, gets blood flow because the muscle's sympathetic and it releases it, right? And then massage does the same thing. It's all blood flow. That's why one of the best recovery methods that any athlete I've ever dealt with, and I wrote manuals on this, 20-minute walk.
Dude, or
I've
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah, it's like that's what, Mark Bell, Stan Efferding, these guys have popularized again within the last couple of years, is it's just going out for a 10-minute walk. And there isn't about anything better for you.
No, it's how we were made to move.
Yeah, that if you go do that, it sorts out anxiety, depression, like being outside, you get vitamin D, and plus you're just moving.
Moving. That's how our body was made to move.
It's really bad at sitting at a desk all day.
Yes.
However, its ability to adapt is so incredible that if you tell it we're going to stay in a seated position for 10 hours a day, it will build the fascia and muscle around
Shorten everything.
Everything. You're like, cool, so we're good doing this, right?
Yeah.
You're like, but it hurts when I run. Fuck, of course it does.
Yeah. I mean, I know, right? And literally I've tracked, like, I have a Megaway. I have all kinds of testing equipment. That walking. So walking, if you work out, what I've tested, it's got to be about 2 hours or more after the workout. Because if you walk right after the workout, it might help a little bit, but it's better if you calm down from the workout and then move things a couple hours later. Obviously, get your recovery workout. Or
Actually, fully come down from your workout.
Yeah, come and then walk.
Yeah.
Right? I tell athletes, just do it in the evening, a couple hours after practice, or anywhere from 2 to whenever. It doesn't, just 2 hours.
There's no way to do it wrong.
No.
Just go do it.
Yeah. And even in the morning, you still beat up, go 20-minute walk in the morning.
It makes a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Of all the different things I've ever tried, consistently going for that 10-minute walk, I can't think of any time I've ever done it and then been like, well, that was a fucking waste.
Yeah. Right?
It's never the case.
Never the case. Well, the crawling for babies is essentially walking, but that's how their brain develops. Movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Oh, man.
Yes. Yeah, it's wired. It's if
just doing weird tests on your kids all
well,
the time. They're
it was great, right? I remember Omega waving the kids when they were young, the whole thing. Yeah, it was fun. Well, I learned a lot, right? I learned a lot. Everything I did, I was like, well, why is this? Why is that? I remember one time with my son, he went to his mom's hockey camp, did his camp in the morning, and then stayed for the older kids' camp, and then came home, didn't get lunch, went to the neighbors, swam for 6 hours. We called him. He comes running home. Dinner's about ready. I was like, all right, we got to mega wave this kid, see where he's at. Because he swam all day, didn't eat lunch, had breakfast, and that was it. In a mega wave, you calm him down, you set him down. I mega waved him, and the readings were literally as bad as they could be. And I'm going, if this is an Olympic athlete, it's going to take him a week to recover.
He's trash for a week.
Yeah. If it's you or I, we'd be done.
Yeah, I'm
You know
done.
what I mean?
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm never competing again.
Right. And then and he fell asleep. So he didn't eat dinner. So I took him to bed. He didn't eat dinner. He was so tired. He gets up in the morning. I test him. He's good to go.
Good to go. He's back to just ready.
I was like, this is a resilience of kids, right?
They're
but they're
incredible.
made to survive. So, and then the theory is that they're more aerobic based than what you and I would be, of course.
Yep.
As
They need to
males.
be able to run as
Well,
small kids who can't defend themselves.
Yeah, and if you're aerobic based, you're more likely to survive a drought, famine, or disease or COVID. Right? So the theory is
unless you're not moving.
Unless you're not moving. And I see, like, so then you get to women and children. When we do my GPP cycle, right, which is just a general fitness preparation phase, my women respond better. It seems like they adapt to the aerobic faster.
Whereas, I mean, we adapt
than the
to
males.
strength.
Yeah, males will adapt to strength faster.
Well, testosterone's incredible.
Yeah, it is for that.
We have a bunch of it.
Right.
Especially at the age ranges that are coming through working with you.
Yeah.
And like, man, the amount of, I've been open about being on gear or whatever else, for a long time now. And the questions I get from people are like, a 25-year-old or a 22-year-old asking me about getting on gear. I'm like, what are you doing? You already have as much testosterone in and the fact that you're already training.
Yeah.
If you're already doing the right things, eat more food, sleep more.
Right?
These are the only two things that you should be doing.
But train like your life depends on it.
Yes.
I mean, people don't get, you do a heavy rack pull even when I was 38, you get 800-900 pounds. Like the next couple of days, I mean, you may be a little shot mentally, but like your testosterone's up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean.
You're like, yeah. I mean, just.
Ready to rock, as they say.
Yeah, every morning. You're ready to roll, morning. Right? You are ready to rock.
There it is.
And it's like, I mean, just moving heavy weight releases
heavy
growth
rack pulls
hormone.
is basically
Adrenaline.
Viagra.
Yeah. It's a stiffness training.
Yeah, I haven't done really heavy stuff in a really long time. And while we were in Iceland, I kind of got a little bit of an itch. And so, like, I kind of figuring out what I can do without jeopardizing the system too bad. And so, like, Hatfield squats I can do. Belt squats I can do heavy as I fucking want to. I'm thinking I could probably add rack pulls back in.
Go above the knee. Don't.
Yeah. Of course, that's all I'm saying. I'm just doing the last.
Or even shrugs. Do heavy shrugs at 600, 800, whatever.
Put the straps on and get
hold it for a second and hold it for 5 seconds.
Man, I haven't done any of that in so long.
Yeah, increases bone density the whole 9 yards.
Right on.
Yeah.
Definitely need to start adding this stuff.
Yeah, but it's hard because like where you've been.
See, I'm so lazy that it's the unloading and loading. Like I basically just need 600 pounds to sit on a bar and never leave that position.
That's what I got.
That's what I have. That's what I have to do in here.
Yeah,
I now just have a shrug area.
I know, or get enough so your gym's big enough that I could just have this platforms for the 600 pound shrugs. It stays there. It doesn't move. We can weld the plates on. It's there.
Just weld them on. It's terrible to ever move it to another gym. What a disaster.
Yeah, but it's like. The heavy load, the adrenaline that's released, the whole deal, man. It's important.
Now, do you do any of like the isometric holds against pulling against a rack or benching against a rack? I saw that when we went and toured Bo Sandoval's place with the UFC, and he had these platforms. I guess there was 2 uprights in the middle of their platform with a bar across it, and then there was a load plate underneath to be able to measure, pulling on.
Yeah,
for sure. Fuck, and that's a really fascinating
get a little biofeedback on that, right? But we do the isometric holds where just pushing against something max effort, right?
It doesn't move,
and it makes you strong.
Okay.
It'll make you stronger than it actually. So like people say, okay, I'm like 40 pounds stronger in the weak position if you can measure the force, but it doesn't mean you'll bench 40 more pounds because there's still skill.
Yes.
That's what people don't get, right? Like, I'll even not lift heavy with my athletes for 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. But I got devices that, and they'll get weaker at back squat. But I'll check their strength. Their strength's the same. They just lost the skill of back squatting if we haven't back squatted heavy.
Makes sense.
Right?
Well, so whenever I was doing geared powerlifting, more so than the raw stuff, I never considered when I went to the gym to train that it wasn't ever training. I always felt that I was going to practice.
Oh.
Right? And because whether it's a bench shirt or a squat suit or any of this, it's really specific to positioning. And unless you can get in those positions, weight on the bar kind of becomes irrelevant.
Yes.
Because if you're out of position, you'll get crushed anyway.
It's a skill.
It felt like a total skill training,
yes.
And then I had to train 2 other days of the week to actually get stronger.
Right. You're dead right. And that's the thing, we're really highly adaptable and we get very specific at some point. But when you get too specific at your sport, you're less likely to survive. So you see, as a human being.
Yeah, I got.
If there's some type of disaster, the highly specialized athletes,
Aren't going to make it.
Aren't going to make it.
No.
Unless they're maybe endurance, right?
Or archers.
Right, yeah. But you see what I'm saying?
No, for sure. Yeah, if you're really great at one thing,
The survival.
you become not great at a lot of things.
Yes,
You
exactly.
know, we'll have a bunch of CrossFit athletes doing just fine.
Yeah, that'd be great. Right?
They'll be doing just fine. Whereas, like, a couple throwers are like, what? We do this one thing super good.
Yeah, but you know, ultimately, it's whatever drives you for your performance, and I'm here to help whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever sport it is or whatever. I appreciate excellence in that sense.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate excellence.
Now,
Whether
of
it's
all-
wrestling.
Of all the years you've coached, like, do you have any athlete that you think of as just the freakiest mutant you've ever come across that just stands out?
Yeah, I had a thrower that had a 44-inch vertical at like 260, and I think ran around the 4.4.
Okay.
Never. I mean, we didn't train running, but could just pop that. Went to elite level, but you know, ultimately,
There's a lot of factors. At
Yeah.
that point, but that doesn't make him not like.
he was.
If he would have focused on football, he'd have been fine.
Here's the thing with that: like, he didn't have that mentality, right? And it just depends on the person. Oh yeah, he was. I mean, he could have been a defensive end
Yeah, on
then-
paper.
on paper
And
and
looks
ran around
incredible.
the corner. Anybody? I don't know who could have blocked him, right? Like one of those deals.
But mentally,
But just wasn't that interpersonal violence.
Yeah,
that
for
football
for
is.
football,
right?
right.
But great, you know, elite thrower, multiple time Big Ten champion, blah blah blah. You know, so yeah, it takes a mentality. And then there's other people that weren't great athletes per se, but just savages at their sport.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I've trained some athletes that were the best in their sport, women's goaltenders, some defensemen, right? But you're just like, the way they move, they're super athletic, they're good, or they're not. I mean, and then you've trained some mental. The ones I really appreciate is the ones that worked, right? That were just, I mean, I got a couple that I tell people, like, so mentally tough. Like, I haven't talked to them maybe 5 years, would call them and say, hey, I'm going to go hunt Moby Dick in a rowboat, right?
Yeah.
And their only response would be, I'll grab the tartar sauce and I'll be right there, coach.
Coming.
Yep. You know, just that.
Those athletes that are just willing to die for
They're
it.
hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I've Olympic caliber wrestlers, like, they may be the toughest people, you know what I mean? One of the toughest athletes, because I mean, they're tough, and people say, well, they're really tough. And like CrossFitters say, well, you know, we're hard. And I'm not taking anything from CrossFit, but you're going, CrossFit.
Olympic caliber, like, actual
Wrestling?
wrestlers are gnarly. They're so strong, and they're so fit, and they're flexible, and they're explosive, and they're really fast.
And they've been weeded out, because if you're not, you
Right.
won't make it.
Yeah,
and I tell
it's
people,
a physical.
right, they've asked me, hey, what do you think CrossFit? I think it's great. It's a great workout. It's good. But, like, it's not like college wrestling. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, if you jump on a sled and you're going to push it for 100 yards, and it weighs 190 pounds or whatever, maybe it's on wheels. I said, that's hard. I get it. But I'm wrestling a 190-pound human being that's trying to kill me. And that's the difference, right?
Right.
The sled's not trying to kill you.
Never fights back.
Never fights back.
With that said, you'll never win against the sled or the assault bike, but
right?
Yeah.
But it's not trying to attack
it's not trying
you
to get you off of it while you're
and then
trying
break
to
your
do
neck
it. Yeah.
or choke you to, right? That's the thing about the wrestling part of it, that toughness. It's that interaction of another human trying to do. I remember going through college wrestling practice 2 hours in. There was one time I was a heavyweight, so I was a little heavy, right? But I lost 12 pounds in practice and drank all I wanted to. And that was right. You're going, but at the end of that practice, you're dead tired, but you got one last round to go against a 2-time All-American. I'm like, yeah, that's you got to have some level of mental toughness.
Yeah, I'm a little upset that, like, you know, of life experiences that I got to go through, that combat sports weren't ever part of any of my, like, athletic, I guess, tutelage.
Right.
And I'm a little beat up now to fully go into it. Like, I'd love to do some more jiu-jitsu. It's just going to be a matter of me.
It's hard.
I have to be pretty controlled.
Yeah.
About who I roll with and what I do. And I also probably would need spare time, which I don't have a ton of.
No, obviously, right?
I'll just get one of those dummies and roll around the floor a bunch with it. Figure it out.
Even me, right? My buddy has a class. I can jump in any time, but it's hard. I mean, it's at 6:30 on a Tuesday. I can't always make 6:30 Tuesdays, right?
No.
It just doesn't happen on Thursday. I mean, I can go in anytime I want. It's just hard.
What type of schedule do you keep? Like, are you up early or do
Yeah, I'm 5:30 every
Okay.
day, maybe earlier.
But you also stay up.
I will.
Or
yeah.
in the situations that we've been.
Yeah, we've been.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
you keep me up. No,
Oh, shit,
yeah,
it's me.
right. No, I mean, yeah, I try to get to bed early, but it doesn't work. But I can't sleep long. My whole life, I've never been able to sleep.
Same boat.
Yeah.
I was the kid that, like, my parents fully had to be like, you're not allowed to go bother
Outside.
other people's parents yet.
Right. Well, I mean, they put the locks up on the top of the door because 5 years old, they caught me going out into a blizzard to play in the snow at like 3:30 in the morning. The dog got him up because I was going outside. Right. Yeah.
Oh man, blizzard's up. We're trying to go.
Yeah. Right. Like
growing up in Wisconsin's different than me.
I just can't. I have a tough time sleeping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
I don't. Do you dream?
I haven't too often, but I used to, but not.
Yeah, it's pretty rare for me too.
Yeah. It's just. If
Wonder-
I do, I don't remember them.
Yeah. Now, I mean, with all your stuff doing brain stuff or any of that, like, you haven't thought more into how that affects stuff with athletes, or
for sure. And I mean, I take a bunch of substances to calm myself down, go to sleep. Right.
Yep.
I mean, there's times where I'm taking 12, 14 of whether it's an amino acid, all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
Right. Melatonin, but you're just going, yeah. But I literally need it, so it helps me. And if I can get 6 to 7, that's world class.
oh,
for
dude,
me.
I'm rocket fuel on 7.
Yeah, it feels like I feel like a new man.
And it's not like I don't have time to get those hours of sleep. Right. I just don't sleep. I very rarely catch a nap. It's really rare for me to shut it down and catch a nap.
That's tough.
Dude,
right?
about the only thing I've found that's really good for me, it's honestly like going to get a massage. So something like that, like, because my anxiety of not doing something
Yes.
won't kick in because I've convinced myself I'm doing a thing that's good for me.
Yeah. Right? I know, man. But like that's what makes us, I guess, who we are though, right? That wiredness. I mean, I'm in a business 20 plus years, and there's days where on Thursdays sometimes it'll happen where I'm reading something. I don't have any athletes during the season because we got games on Fridays, Wednesday, Monday lift, Tuesday, right? So then it's like, okay. And I remember there's times where I read something and I go in a room full of whiteboards at like 7:30, and at 5:30 I hadn't ate or drank anything. I don't even know if I went to the restroom all day, but I'm excited and I create something.
Well, because you love it.
Yeah.
Like, that passion's so evident in you of this enhancing
Yeah.
performance in athletes.
Yeah, and then asking questions. People say, how do you create all this stuff? And maybe you've heard it before, but I question every fucking thing I do.
Everything.
Even myself, right?
You should be the first person to question your shit.
Which then creates problems I didn't even know I had, right? So I've created more of my own problems and found more training flaws and problems that I didn't even know I had. And then once I find the problem, I'm pretty decent at making solutions. So I'm good at problem solving. I don't feel like I'm creative, but I did a workaround there to question everything I do, to create problems I didn't know I had, and then I find a solution.
Yeah.
And that's the creativeness part of it.
But the systematic approach to be able to, well, that, and you can check your ego out of it to say, I'll find if this is right, not whether or not I think it should be.
Yes. That's the other thing too. When I'm explaining things to people, sometimes I find like they can't let go of what they've been taught in their schooling or their education, right? I do think I have a unique skill set of just to literally clear my mind of every thought and look at something completely different or holistically or actually for what it is, and not let other influences in my life have the way I see something.
Well, that identity that people have to a thing, whether that is the training program they've decided to latch to that works. I mean, look at what people use as identifiers of people. Keto Jim, more or less, or that like his whole life is based on, the foods he chooses to eat. People that identify as that as their diet, like, they're hard to convince to go the other way. They've invested too much time now into this that any future evidence has to be written off as bullshit.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed to go like, fuck, I was really wrong about that.
Really?
Maybe eating only bacon every day wasn't the best plan.
I know.
I think it works on paper. I just don't think it's maybe not. At the end of the day, it still fucking blows me away that people fuck up nutrition.
I know.
And it's really simple, and there's a lot of avenues to do it right.
Yeah.
And still the only thing that matters is if you'd like to get bigger or lose weight, it's calories in versus calories out.
You're like, it's not that. And it sucks going to bed hungry. If I want to look,
Dude, it sucks.
if I want to look good naked, I got to go to bed hungry.
Do
I look good naked by that? I don't know.
being really hungry in the middle of the day. That's where I've tried to shift my hunger window to, is like, well, I'll eat way too much before bed, and I'll get up and do cardio and do my training and do all that, and then I won't eat again until I eat way too much before I go to bed.
Does it work?
It does. I don't know. It's better if I'm really consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems that if I'm really consistent and I'm not an asshole with food, which happens. Look, man, they'll deliver cookies until 2 a.m.
Oh, it's perfect.
Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
I know.
I was never supposed to have the maturity level to deal with such a thing.
That's grown-up shit, man.
No.
We haven't grown up yet.
No, it's fucking. What do you mean? There's cookies. Of course, I want cookies to show up.
And a gallon of milk.
Oh man.
I mean, I could crush 20 fucking cookies.
There was a period of time that, like, every year for my birthday, I would just get like a full thing of Oreos and a half gallon of milk, and I would just sit and eat until they were all gone. Happily.
Yeah, why not?
And then just go to bed like it didn't take place. Like I never had to like punishment for it.
No.
Like, my body never gave a shit. My thing's a fucking total garbage disposal.
Yeah.
I can run any food through this thing and nothing will upset the system.
No, not at all.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
I wish that there were some like fail safes that would click in and be like, maybe you don't need 40 cookies this week.
No chance.
So dude, you're here in town with sons playing hockey.
Yeah, he's at a hockey tournament, and he's a big hockey tournament. He's 16, going through that process of pretty good hockey player. His mom was an Olympic champion, so
Okay.
he picked that up.
Yeah,
right,
got
from
some
her.
athletics,
Yeah, got
yeah.
some athletic, at least hockey skill set anyway. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, it's fun. Just time hanging out with family. You know what I mean?
So what age in hockey are they allowed to start punching each other?
They're not yet. Usually it goes to juniors. So next year if he leaves, he could go fight.
So how do you have to be stoked as that as a rule as a kid growing up? At like, when can we fight?
Yeah. Well, the big one's hitting, right? Around 12, 13,
Okay.
they can start hitting hard, right? Yeah. So, yeah, kids coming across the ice with their head down the first year, like, because everyone's played with hockey with their head down, keep the puck away. Well, then you get 12, 13.
That changes drastically.
Yeah. And it's really, it gets ugly because some kids have a hard time transitioning with their head up. And then somebody smokes them, right? So that's a tough one.
Dude, ice is really hard.
Yeah, the ice is hard. People are hard.
Most women don't grow up playing contact sports. At least most men, especially in our country, end up playing football or something like that.
Right.
I don't know if it's most, but a lot.
Yeah.
Bonnie and I were talking about that, and as an athlete, like, she's never had a moment where she has been removed from the area she was standing physically,
Yeah.
or done that to a person. Like, I deep snapped in high school playing football, and occasionally, as being athletic and fast enough, no one was ever guarding me.
No.
And so I was always first down the field to that guy getting ready to catch it.
Sure.
And I've had a couple of times where you just remove a person.
Yes. It's awesome. Isn't it?
There's no better feeling
No better feeling
than just running through another human being.
Oh man,
It's the
and to hear
best.
that ache, to hear him ache.
There's no transfer of that energy to you
No.
when it happens right. Like, you feel it all get delivered.
Yeah, it's
the best.
It is. I mean, you lay awake hoping you can do it again.
Yeah. The only thing I can imagine that has to be better, right, is like, now that I've got a couple friends who've moved into boxing, I bet landing that punch, like a walk-off knockout like UFC.
Yeah. And just to feel that hard, when you overhand.
Oh, when you feel it
And
all
you
connect
feel it
and
all
like feel it
connect,
line
yeah,
up
and
through
it
your arm and
snaps.
like,
And there's a deep vibration in your bones, but it ended up on his chin. Oh yeah.
and then the crowd, everything.
Oh,
I bet doing it in a fight is unreal.
Yeah.
Like, as far as an athletic performance of just get it together. And it's one of the reasons I got slight an opportunity to go to Dubai to watch this fight, because I was over in Africa. I'm going to be over in Africa anyway.
Yeah.
And like talking with Steffi about it, like, she's now had a fight and ended up with a knockout. And I'm like, is there anything you've ever felt better as an athlete? And she's like, fucking nothing's close. Nothing's even close. Not 25 world records, not playing national team soccer Venezuela. She says nothing's fucking close.
Yeah.
And like, I love, because she's such a high level lunatic, and then has the skill set and the strength and everything that, just watch her. Let's just watch this go.
Yeah.
Because she's not trying to be an exhibition boxer. She's interested in boxing.
Yeah.
And so, like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll watch this super mutant try to take on another
Bam.
thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's good shit.
Dude, it's the best. Well, man, I don't know if you need to make moves and go get back to your kid, as we've been in. Where are we at?
About hour 20.
Okay.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dude,
No, man. It's good being here. I'm glad.
Pleasure.
I got to swing back down.
Come back.
I'll release my book, and then we'll talk some big
that
time
would be
training with
great,
some
dude.
video.
That would
and,
be great. I would love
like
to
some
do some video
detailed
content
stuff
on it,
about people to help them. Yeah.
I'm going to start adding in this infinity loop.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
like a thing I could easily do in hotel rooms. I could do it anywhere. I mean,
Yep.
why wouldn't it help? Why wouldn't adding that to the beginning of my day be beneficial for the rest of my day?
It will. It'll help balance out the brain. Yeah. It's
All right.
really good, man. Yep. Take a look. I mean, some of my pro athletes are saying, Coach, I made some plays the other day that I normally wouldn't, and they're professional making millions.
Good for them.
Yeah, right. And they're like,
They're just more perceptive and able to get there quicker in the half seconds, quarter seconds, all
The
matter.
one was like, I had my head up looking, didn't know where the puck was, saw it come underneath me, grabbed it with my stick, never had to look down, and then made a pass with it. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, as he was skating. That's what he told me. So I was like, oh, okay, he's like, it's that drill. It's that drill.
I would have really loved to grow up in a hockey culture.
No, hockey's one of the most dynamic sports in the world.
I think my skill set would have been better for hockey than it would have been for football.
Yeah, for sure.
But
well, hockey is so fast. The skill you got to stick with a puck. It's like the team part is like dynamics of basketball, how fast it is, but faster because it's on skates. There's the only other sport besides football that's hitting in the professional level, right?
Right.
The dynamics of it, and then to win, 3 NFL, you win 4 games to win a Super Bowl. Hockey, you might go 28 to win that cup of contact.
right.
I mean, guys come after me at the end of the season to train with me after going that long.
And they're just slaughtered.
Oh man, it's brutal.
Oh, I bet they're destroyed.
It's tough, man. That is one of the toughest things to do in sports is 28 possible games to win a Stanley Cup.
You don't work with anybody on the Blues, huh?
I have in the past, but no, they got traded. But yeah,
Okay.
no, yeah. So
I say, man,
I might have some old golfers on there. I'm not sure. I have
Be
to
cool to
look
come
at the
down for the
roster.
game.
Yeah. You can figure it out.
yeah.
So.
Brother, I
Hey.
appreciate it as always. Cal, where can everyone find anything to learn more from you?
Cal Dietz, I'm on Instagram. XL Athlete, like extra large is one of my websites, right? So,
XL Athlete.
Yeah. And then my YouTube page. But if you Google me, everyone seems to find my email. So, right, yeah. If you're listening to this, you want a question, hit me with free beer.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll look at
There you
that
go.
one. I read those first, the free beer ones.
Well, dude, thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you next week.